some report also according to where they are in their spiritual journey, revelations that have permanently changed their life. There are effects on the human level, but there is also this dimension which invites us for personal exploration, this mystical, spiritual, ecstatic perhaps dimension your soul hankers after. And that makes Kirtan so profound and deep and immediately distinguishes it perhaps from so many other practices that are available to us.
Before we jump into this episode, I'd love to invite you to join this candid spiritual community to hear more conversations that will help you become happier, healthier, and more healed. All I want you to do is click on that subscribe button because I love your support. I love seeing all the comments pouring through, all the love pouring through, and we're just getting started. I can't wait to go on this journey with you, whether you're a spiritual seeker or you're just curious about the topic. And we really hope that our conversations will provide you food for thought and inspiration for your own spiritual journey. So join us for honest, candid discussions about spirituality for soul's sake.
For soul's sake, for soul's sake.
Hello and welcome to another episode of For Soul's Sake, a conversation in which we bring you the best in wellness, the best in spirituality, and today, the best in Kirtan, in my opinion, someone that I deeply appreciate. I'm going to share a little introduction about the person, Sacinandana Swami, a monk in the Bhakti tradition known for his significant contribution to the practice of meditation and Kirtan. Dedicated to the process of inner transformation, he has spent 50 years in the pursuit of genuine spiritual experiences. With messages full of bhakti, humor, and energy, he reaches thousands while at the same time teaching each and every individual. In his own words, I like to inspire others to come in touch with the divine so that they can live and act from the place of unlimited blissful being. Sacinandana Swami co-founded the Braj Care charity in India and has been integral in building 2 spiritual communities in Germany. He teaches at the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education in India and the Bhaktivedanta College in Belgium, and has published several books, dozens of articles, and poems. Maharaj, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast.
It is my pleasure.
I wanted to dive straight in. The conversation that I feel would be really useful in this podcast would be around chanting, mantra, and specifically around Kirtan. I know that you have the same affinity, if not greater affinity towards Kirtan than I do. And as someone that has been practicing for so long and teaching in so many different places, I'd love to get your insights on Kirtan specifically. And so if you're a Kirtan enthusiast or just exploring the topic, this is a podcast that I think that will really help you to tune in to the world of Kirtan. So I just wanted to ask you to start, what attracted you personally to the practice? What made you feel back when you first connected with it, this was a practice for you?
It was at a moment of great grief. I was a fan of the Rolling Stones, and one of the members had tragically died, and we, the fan community, were in tears and agony. One German TV broadcast, Beat Club, had dedicated a documentary on this tragic death, and after the documentary, the announcer said, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to present you with an exciting new phenomena in the world of music. They are George Harrison's Radha Krishna temple." And then there were a group of devotees singing Kirtan, and was for perhaps 3 minutes only. But because I was so vulnerable at that time, I said, let me also try to sing along. Something I must do to get rid of my grief here. And I sang along as they were singing on the TV. And afterwards, so it was only 3 minutes, afterwards I felt just so relieved, and I had the feeling there is no death for anyone. We are eternal beings, so there's nothing to grieve too much, a little of course. The human being, the talented guitar player, the conflicted individual has died, but I felt so blissful after 3 minutes, and I thought, wow, let me check this out. This was my language at that time. I was a young man, and so Kirtan has not left me since that time.
And I assume this was in the 60s, and a time where maybe some would say that Kirtan would have been a more natural fit because of the hippie revolution and people being more open-minded. Do you feel, and I mean, this is a loaded question because I feel it's also true, but do you feel it's relevant today, and why? The practice.
Yeah, at the time of the hippie movement, everything went for the hippies. But then that movement died out, and people were a little bit more reserved to trying Indian or Eastern practices. But I feel something changed in the public perception, especially towards Kirtan. And I do not remember the exact time. Perhaps 20 years ago, the magazine Psychology Today is very renowned in America, and people all over the world who are interested in psychology and also in science are aware of this magazine. They published an article about the benefits of Kirtan, saying that a short amount of Kirtan creates an inner peace that is very, very difficult to obtain. And please mind me, this assessment came not from a hippie. It didn't come from a practitioner who was perhaps interested in Buddhism and so on. It came from a magazine which had the claim to make scientifically researched statements. So they only picked up, I believe, on a public perception and said to the editors, okay, it's all right, you can write like this. Something changed in the public perception of Kirtan, so that it was taken out of the corner of some exotic practice that is not relevant for people today in the Western context, and so on. Perhaps it is also so because pop artists like Stevie Wonder put a Kirtan in the back of one of his recordings.
Oh, yeah.
Was it, do you remember?
Something about...
Something Paradise.
Something Paradise? Gangster's Paradise.
Gangster's Paradise, yeah.
I'm looking at my cameraman and he's saying Gangster's Paradise. If you know this song, then drop it in the comments so we know for sure.
Something with Paradise. Something with Paradise. Yeah. And other pop artists took it on. I personally, was extremely active in Germany, and I remember appearing with Boy George on the stage of the TV. I became very close to Nina Hagen, the godmother of punk, who sang Kirtan, has a whole CD on Kirtan. The public perception changed. It went into the music, into the science field, and now, because let us think about, the essence of Kirtan is really old. It's not a new thing. You will find when you go in the caves of the cavemen, drawing of people standing together in a circle. Their hands are raised. It seems they are dancing. There is a form of group singing there. In all houses in old times, they had a piano. They would come around as a family and as neighbors, and they would sing, group singing. In Africa, they sing in indigenous cultures. Kirtan is something so beautiful. I think modern times has taken the voice of people away and brought it into the entertainment industry. Kirtan gives people their voice back.
Wow.
And they need it. We need to have our voice with us and sing and glorify the one with 1,000 names.
I always find it fascinating among different cultures that despite the differences in which they live on this world, that they can come together around a practice that, like you said, it's exotic and different and is in the language form that's not conventional to them, but that the feeling that human beings have across the world is so unified, that there is an inner calling that people are looking for, that Kirtan gives the voice to. And I just love how you said that it allows people to sing in a unified way. And I wanted to ask you around your personal experiences with Kirtan also, and if there was a standout experience, something that perhaps in a moment of chanting that you felt deeply connected, or this is access that I wouldn't ordinarily get without this camera, so I'm going to take the opportunity while I get it to ask Maharaj about his standout experience in Kirtan.
Many. But of the many, I will focus on one. It was just after Glasnost. Russia had opened its borders to people from the West, and somehow a big concert, Kirtan concert, was organized in the Olympia Hall, one of the main halls in Moscow at that time. I think there must have been halls with greater capacity, but this hall had a capacity of about 30,000 people. So we were invited to present a cultural program. I remember we used the airplane of the president at that time. His name was Boris Yeltsin. And I never forget the price we paid to fly from St. Petersburg to Moscow was $300. We transported the whole Kirtan group and most of our equipment in that airplane and went to Moscow. We did the program and ended with a Kirtan. And what happened in this Kirtan, I can only remember with the greatest inner gratitude and even being moved. When we were about perhaps 10 minutes into the Kirtan, the speed picked up. All of a sudden, all these more than 30,000 people started to get up and dance, but then they danced in such joyous abundance that they did things which I can never forget. For instance, on one corner, I saw people climbing on top of each other, building a human Eiffel Tower, really high. It was really high. I don't know. It was an acrobatic feat to get so high. At other places, people climbed on each other's shoulder, and they started in a dancing way approaching the stage. It looked as if a tsunami wave of people were coming to the stage, and it was just pure joy. And then something happened. If you would have been there, you would believe me now at an instance. But since you were not there, you might think, really? This is what happened. I was at that time performing an classical a little ceremony. We had established an altar where we had representations of the divine, and we wanted to show that Kirtan is also done in a cultural context in India. So we did a classical artik ceremony, a ritual ceremony, which you can see in India and wherever the diaspora has spread. It's very common. Mm-hmm. So I'm there on the stage performing this little ceremony and see this amazing movement on the altar. You could call it a change of atmosphere. And at that moment, my rational mind kicked in and said, wait a minute, what is going on here? Maybe there are simple explanations for this.
The floor is moving.
The floor is moving. Anything, maybe someone drills at the stage and the stage is shaking. I don't remember what. All I can say now, I feel very strongly there was a reciprocation from the, let us call it carefully, the more than human dimension.
Wow.
And this is what brought the audience even to more increased, heightened states of consciousness and of joy and of participation. And really, when we think of Kirtan, there is this invisible dimension, this thing that is happening in the divine dimension, perhaps, something which you could catch, in my mind, best with the word, there is a reciprocation, a divine reciprocation. Something that many who have been in Kirtans have attested to. It's like breaking through the layer of clouds and seeing the world from a perspective you have never seen before, seeing how everything is unified, how we humans tell ourselves narratives that only make us sad, and it's so unnecessary. We are part of something much bigger than our tiny little minds can grasp. And some report also, according to where they are in their spiritual journey, revelations that have permanently changed their life. So yes, there are effects on the human level, which you can measure through disciplines like psychology. You can measure the heart rate, what is happening there, blood pressure, mental states, and so on. But there is also this, let us say, dimension which invites us for personal exploration, this mystical, spiritual, ecstatic perhaps dimension which your soul hankers after. And that makes Kirtan so profound and deep, and immediately distinguishes it perhaps from so many other practices that are available to us for our physical and mental and even perhaps spiritual well-being.
I like how you've basically, it's not in any way a summary, but from what I understood and what I'm grabbing from what you're saying, that you're alluding to different levels at which different people can practice this chanting. Some will be for health and wellness, etc. And then there are those that are looking for a deeper experience, revelatory experiences. And something that's crossed my mind is, as chanting has become more readily available, it's becoming more accepted. Previously, for example, if you were going for a run outside, a jog outside, and people would ask, what are you running from? And now we've come to a situation in society where yoga is very widely accepted, asana practice. And, if you're not doing hot yoga on a Tuesday night with your friends, then you're missing out on something. And slowly kirtan and chanting is creeping into that world and becoming more mainstream. For example, someone like me has a place in the world where I can present without being shy of presenting divinity. I don't have to lock divinity in a cupboard like a crazy cousin. It's becoming more widely accepted that people are looking for spiritual divine experiences, and it's more mainstream. It's not just a hippie culture that's advocating for it, but I think it's there's less fear around God, let's call it. And I'd like to get your take on the broadening of availability of kirtan, and whether you think it's a tragedy or whether you think it's tragic that people will be experiencing or trying kirtan without God.
Wonderful, wonderful, very insightful.
Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, thank you for this question and also your reflections on the various levels on which you can practice kirtan and derive some benefit. Yes, I myself have been part in a research in a hospital. It was in Belgrade, Serbia, for mentally challenged people, and we have measured that kirtan calms them down, and in cases of schizophrenia, a split personality brings them together in one place. And yes, health and wellness is there. You asked specifically if I think it could be a problem that kirtan is divorced, so to say, or separated from the divine dimension. I would like to answer your question by raising amongst concern that I indeed have. As much as I welcome that practices like yoga are taken out of their specific cultural contexts, like in India in the old time, it was meant for self-realization and God realization. So we welcome that it comes out and is more readily available to broader sections of society, some of them secular. But in one way it can also be regrettable. Why? Because people might miss out on so much that can be given to them and which they can explore. When I, for instance, take the practice of yoga and make it into something where I just am concerned that my bottom, the place where I sit, is nicely toned and is shining forth under my jeans when I walk in a very swinging way on the beach. If that is the only reason why I practice yoga, then it's somewhat sad, because yes, this may be also there, that your body is becoming more toned, and all muscles are developing here and there. But what is about inner peace? What is about becoming a better person, developing into a better version of yourself? And what is about that ultimate object of the human quest? Is there something more? Is there divinity? And if yes, how can I taste it and experience it? But this is a purely monk's concern. Not everyone is a monk. I don't expect everyone to be a monk. I just said something personal. The other side in me, the global citizen in me, is rejoicing that people take on these spiritual practices, including Kirtan. And perhaps it is not so much of a concern, because let them start where they are interested in, and then as they are engaging in it, they will find out, look at this, there's something I overlooked, let me go deeper. And perhaps that is an approach that is more, let us say, valuable. But what can I do? I'm a practicing monk, and I'm sometimes seeing how much people are missing out if they take something that has so many layers of wells to offer, and just take only one layer or two.
Something that I very much appreciate about the way in which you teach, and something I've, in one sense, copied and pasted into my model, which is to appreciate, yes, this is, it's like digging into the ground for jewels. There's so many jewels deep into the practice. But if you're just looking for a good time, then this is also the place to be.
Yes.
It's an alternative way to have a wonderful Friday night, for example. Yeah. And giving people the opportunity to experience a life less ordinary. Because I think there's just too many people that feel trapped by and imprisoned by a culture which is forcing them to live a materialistic life unnecessarily sometimes. And so, yeah, I'm deeply grateful for the way that you presented that yes, there are deep levels, but it's okay if you come in just to have some fun. That's okay too. You're validated no matter where you are in your journey. I wanted to ask you about the scene of Kirtan. And when I first came into this world of chanting, then festivals were presenting Kirtan, and slowly I have noticed that the scene is changing, and I'm conscious that the scene will continue to change. But I want to ask, from your perception, because you've been practicing for 50 years and you've seen a lot of change, perhaps from the initial point of when Kirtan was being presented, how would you like it to be presented for the next 50 years? Like, what do you see? Maybe some subtle points of, maybe you're a Kirtan leader and you're watching this, or someone that likes to share chanting with others. This might be a point to tune in for you, because it'd be interesting to take your perspective on where you see this going. Maybe some pitfalls or things to watch out for along the way.
Yeah. First of all, I think all of those who are appreciating Kirtan, all of those who have an interest in Kirtan, all of those who present Kirtan as a Kirtan leader, it's good if it is spread out and made known, it is made known to the people that this is a very universal practice. You can sing Kirtan in all cultures, in all forms of dresses, in all kinds of philosophical orientations, religious orientations, it's something that just works. People coming together and singing again and again these wonderful, spiritually powerful sound vibrations, and turning from mere human doings who run around to make things happen into human beings in the deepest sense of the term, being in contact with their true self, with themselves, and so on. Yes, so it is universal. Now, it is good to know that there are at least 3 elements in Kirtan that make the magic happen. And if you leave out one of these elements, the magic is not happening really so much. These 3 elements, and this is something to pay attention now closely, are Ra, Ta, Ba. Ra stands for raga, or melody. There should be melodies that are accessible, melodies that have easy entry, which should be used, which can go into more complicated patterns, but there must be an entry that is easy, so that people start to sing and not think, "Oh, this melody is beyond me." They sing. Beautiful melodies are there. The next is tala, rhythm. It's very important to have a steady rhythm. It is described in the beginning, it should not be too slow and not be too fast. It's a little bit like the rhythm of the heart, not too slow, not too fast. And that's the best entry point, tala. And the most important element, which gives life to melody and rhythm, is bhava, or a type of feeling, consciousness, and awareness that those who are kirtan leaders can give to their audience. They make them a little aware, and they bring them to the place where they can exit the world of their concerns and worries. Now let that be parked. It will be you will find it on the parking place. No one will have stolen your anxieties and worries. They will be there. But for now, just focus on the simple task of singing in Kirtan, bringing your mind there. And then later, some good feelings, like we do this to celebrate community amongst us. We do this to spread goodwill into the world. Perhaps the simple affirmation, may there be peace, Om Shanti, 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 may there be peace in the world. May those who are in conflict find goodwill towards each other. These good feelings which have to do with compassion. And later there can also be feelings of celebrating the descent of divinity into the Kirtan group. Again, I must say, this realm I like to approach in the most careful ways I'm able to, because it's a highly private matter for each single individual to think about their relationship with divinity and how far they are, and therefore it is personal. But these 3 elements, melody, raga, you should find nice melodies. Some work very well with good groups. People can immediately let go and let the kirtan take over and the experience take over. then tala, a good rhythm that is like the heartbeat that pumps so to say, the life through the kirtan. Rhythm is very important, but most important, the world of feeling. After all, in kirtan, we go from the outside to the inside, and there, if it's only an externally focused kirtan, it just does not create that inner echo that heals us and that brings us to a place that is so much more welcome than the place where we were when we entered the kirtan.
Making me reflect on my kirtan experiences and who I want to try and present and grow into being someone more of bhava. And it's on my mind. I'm thinking about it a lot more. So thank you.
But I want to say a compliment here, which is genuine. I see two kirtan leaders, well, there are many more, but amongst those who I see, you are doing that, and in your audience, I've been in your kirtan and seen kirtan on Instagram post in that. Please help me. Unity or the
Union Chapel.
Union Chapel, yes. I've seen the people are genuinely touched because they can access that inner dimension, and that is very important. Let it not just be any good music will touch a person if it's good music, if it's a good artist who says. But especially in kirtan, we should access these deeper feelings that are going even deeper than romantic love. There are many layers of love which come ultimately to the divine love.
Thank you for your kind words, but also I have to acknowledge that, initially when you were speaking, I could feel my skin getting really flush and red, and then I just had to step away from that and realize actually that the good you see in me is because of a conduit. I'm holding onto a line that is giving me what I feel is a greater message, and I feel connected in that line. And so thank you for your kind words. I know you as a mystic and a visionary, and I've read what the scriptures talk about as being the future of kirtan. It's being a global, every town and village, for example, it's mentioned. What do you understand of that? What's your take on that? What do you see as the next 100 years of kirtan? Do you have a vision for that?
I once had a discussion about this with a good friend of mine, Krishna Das, who has done a lot to make kirtan accessible to the common man. Like he comes on the stage with a shirt like a Canadian woodcutter, So I can identify with him more than if he would come in a Buddhistic garb, for instance. So I asked him, what do you see the future of kirtan? And of course, it's difficult to make really a prognosis. There are these ancient foretellings we should not forget. Many people who have studied astrology say that we are in a very important transitional period. This will be much more the time of after this. It will be a little painful. Change is always painful, but there must come. It's a common place. To say there must come a change. We can't go much longer in the way we think now. So it will become more open. It has to become more open, and of course, kirtan will also become more accessible, and all these other practices also. I believe because kirtan almost instantly delivers an experience that people hanker for, to be in contact with themselves, to leave, to exit some of their problems, go to a place where they see the bigger picture of it, and then return back and fix their world. Because it does give such an instant experience of this, I think it will spread. It's so good. Why shouldn't it spread? And it's so easily, let us say, available for every type of personality. I mean, I saw in my kirtans people who were going to the beach with a pistol in the pocket to take their life, suicide. And they stayed in the kirtan, and they came afterwards to me. I remember in Mauritius, and I was looking at that thing in the pocket, and the person said to me, "Yes, it's a pistol, but don't worry. I'm not going to shoot anyone. I just wanted to thank you. I was going to commit suicide when I passed this huge hall, and I heard the music, and I said, 'Let this be my last party.'" He said like this. So he went in to celebrate his last party before he would take his life. But then, after sitting there in Kirtan, he didn't even participate in the very beginning. I don't know if he participated at all. There were so many people. I had no chance to. I was really a little afraid about the pistol.
Understandably so.
He just said, "I'm going to fix it now. I'm not going to to suicide." And I want to thank you. And he was really moved. He had tears in his eyes, and he said, "You saved my life." I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, yes." And I said, "No, it's not me alone. Look at all these wonderful people. You have to thank all of them." And that's so nice in Kirtan. We can celebrate togetherness.
I had very little faith on this point, because I remember looking around the kirtans that I grew up in and feeling that this was such a culturally inappropriate practice. I couldn't see it. I just couldn't believe that this was going to be a universal practice for the modern man. And what's been incredible is, in the last few years, seeing how even those in suit and tie, even those who have wealth beyond measure, those who are teachers, doctors, unemployed, self-employed, brown, black, yellow, green, blue, have all come to the practice and appreciated in their own way that this is something that's of great value. Let's see what happens in the next 50 years.
Yeah. It can only spread. And then there are foretellings from these ancient wisdom texts that are usually they come. You see them coming true in one form or another, sometimes slightly different. But yes, it depends also a little bit on those who are kirtan leaders. I think they have a grave responsibility to really deliver the experience, and therefore, yes, don't only sing kirtan when you are kirtan leader, when you are on the stage and when you get paid for it. Perhaps sing kirtan even places like the bathroom and so on, and then what is alive in you becomes alive in those where this is not yet so deeply ingrained.
Wonderful. I wanted to, normally when we close these podcasts, we always end with some quick fire questions. I don't feel like I don't feel the atmosphere is quite right for that. And so I wanted to ask you, if you could look down the barrel into this camera here.
Yes.
And maybe share a message for our listeners that is coming from your heart, something perhaps that is an observation that maybe has nothing to do with Kirtan, but that is for the people that are watching this. Maybe it's a prayer, maybe it's a meditation, maybe it's something that's an observation, but something that's for the person that's listening to this right now. And I'll also be one of you as well. Keep my eyes closed and receive the message as well with all of you. Maybe you want to put down your chopping knives at the kitchen and just be with us for these 2 minutes in real presence. Maybe something will enter into the heart in this moment.
Thank you, first of all, for giving me the opportunity. I will address, right in the camera, in this camera.
Thank you all so much for joining us on this episode of Soul's Sake. See you on the next one.
It is very important to practice the awareness of something divine in our lives. This is called prayojana bodh in Sanskrit, the awareness of the divine as we go through our life. Consider the women in India who go to a well, lower their vessels and then carry the water on their head back to their household. While they walk, they may talk, they may laugh with their friends, some even carry and breastfeed their babies, but they are always aware of the precious water that they carry, that life-giving water. And in this way, maintain balance. So, by remaining aware that there is that your true self, there's the higher self, the supreme being in your life, right all around you and in you, by carrying that precious awareness like water, you will develop a wonderful skill, balance. This is my little message to all of you. I hope it is useful. And certainly Kirtan gives us a very experiential realization of this divine presence in our life that is not tied to any religious, let us call it, teaching or dogma even, something that is just so beautiful and so absolutely real.
Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
If you enjoyed this podcast, you'll love my interview with Raghunath Kapo on his fascinating journey from New York punk to monk. Go check it out.
The guy just said, I've got a gun and I'm going to kill everyone tonight. And it was just one of those wake-up calls that you get when you hear like, oh, tonight's the night. I forgot that we all die. It's one of these things as a monk you read every day that life is temporary, your body's temporary, people leaving their bodies, etc. But you'd never think it's going to happen to you that day.